Welcome to this, the 10th in the series of my introductions to the basic ideas of Marx and Marxism. This one is going to deal with Marx's theory of the tendency of the rate of profit to decline, which was developed in volume 3 of his masterwork, Capital. Marx believed that a capitalist economy would always be prone to recurring economic crises, i.e. recessions and slumps in which production would fall, businesses would collapse, and masses of people would be made unemployed. Now, Marx has been proven right about this, as against all sorts of mainstream economists who always hope that having learned the lessons of the last slump, that the current boom will go on forever. Not so. And the most obvious examples of this have been the Great Depression of the 1930s, the recessions of the mid-70s and 80s, the Great Recession of 2008, and the current recession, whose scale we don't yet know, but it looks to be massive, that has been triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the theory of the tendency of the rate of profit to decline is at the heart of Marx's explanation of why capitalism is prone to recurring crises and why, as the system ages, these crises will tend to get deeper. Profit, of course, is the motive force of production under capitalism. If the rate of profit declines substantially, capitalists will tend to stop investing and the whole system will become more unstable, more prone to shocks, more likely to seize up, as we know is happening at the moment in response to COVID. But obviously any talk of declining rates of profit invites really an obvious objection, an immediate objection, which is that rich and the billionaires have never been so rich as they are today. How is it possible to suggest that profit rates are declining when Jeff Bezos is almost a trillionaire, when the world's 8 richest people have as much wealth as the bottom half of the world's population, when the giant Apple Corporation announces quarterly profits of $87 billion and so on. I mean, we're all familiar with these kind of examples. But here it's important to understand that what Marx is talking about is not the absolute mass of profits, but the rate of profit. And by the rate of profit, he means that those profits in proportion to the total outlay of the capitalist, their outlay on machinery, raw materials, wages, and so on. And if the outlay increases sufficiently, then even though the mass of profits is increasing, the rate of profit can simultaneously decline. And this is what Marx says will tend to happen under capitalist production. Competition between capitalist economies will lead each, capitalist companies will lead each of them to increase their outlay on machinery and raw materials in comparison to their outlay on wages, and they will do this in order to increase their share of the market and their share, therefore, of the total profits. But in the process of each capitalist company struggling to increase its own profits, right, the overall rate of profit will decline. Now, Marx explains this process, illustrates it with a series of equations that I will show you. First of all, he uses the following symbols. P is equal to the rate of profit. The rate of profit is represented by P. Surplus value, which is the basis of profit and is extracted from the labour of workers, is S. outlay, constant capital, spending on machinery, raw materials, infrastructure, etc. is called C, constant capital. And variable capital, expenditure on wages, is called V. This then gives the equation for the rate of profit. The rate of profit is equal to S divided by C plus V. Okay, so that's the rate of profit is equal to S, the surplus value, divided by C for constant capital plus V for wages. Then Marx inserts values for P, S, C and V. So we start with the top, the rate of profit with the values of 50, 50 and 50. 50 for S, surplus value, 50 for C, and 50 for V. Right, this gives you a rate of exploitation between S and C, the rate of extraction of surplus value of 100%. And this then gives you a rate of profit of 50%. As the capitalist economy grows, so we have an increased expenditure on C and V, and an increased profit here. Here he gives the figures of 60, 60 and 100. And then you find there that the rate of profit has gone to 37.5. The economy expands, the capitalist economy expands further. Then we get 80 S over 160 plus 80, 33%. And then we get P, rate of profit, equals 100 over 300 plus 100 equals 25%. This shows how it is possible for the total mass of profits to be increasing. That's from 50 to 60 to 80 to 100, while the rate of profit declines from 50% to 25% through that process. Now, Marx believed that, in simplified terms of course, but that tendency existed actually in capitalist production. The capitalist production would tend to develop in that way in reality. So Toyota, for example, will invest in new machinery because it will give them an advantage over their competitors. Volkswagen and Hyundai, but then Volkswagen and Hyundai will introduce similar machinery and the overall rate of profit will tend to fall. The word tend is very important here. Marx is explicit that what he's talking about is a permanent tendency, not a continuous straightforward descent. And he specifies that there are major counteracting tendencies at work that will tend to halt the decline of the rate of profit. One of the main ones of these is a rise in the rate of exploitation, that is in the ratio of S to V. And that rate of exploitation can be increased by making workers work longer hours, by increasing the intensity of their work, or by cutting their wages. Another counteracting tendency may come through foreign trade and the export of capital from air, which will decrease the ratio between constant capital and variable capital by sending capital abroad to areas where the rate of profit is much higher. Lenin believed that this was a major counteracting tendency, which was one of the main explanations for the rise of imperialism and the development of the imperialist epoch at the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century. To these counteracting tendencies, we could now add the role of massive arms spending, which siphoned capital off into a kind of dead end and helped sustain the long boom after World War II. However, Marx believed that in the long run, the tendency of the rate of profit to decline would assert itself and lay the foundation for recurring and deepening economic crises. I will conclude by saying that the declining rate of profit has always been controversial among economists, but in recent years it has been strongly defended by the Marxist economist Michael Roberts, particularly in his blog The Next Recession, and he has also compiled a mass of data showing that there actually has been empirically a major fall in the rate of profit in recent decades. The fundamental point, though, is that for Marx, the tendency of the rate of profit to decline demonstrates that capitalism, far from being an eternal system, is historically limited and contains the seeds of its own destruction.